All right, welcome to Showing Your Go. It's your boy Roscoe Squeeze Off with
Rich Blackman.
Today we got a special guest, so I'm gonna let Rich take it over. Let's go.
All right, party people. So look, this guest that we have today, I know personally, I had made up this whole big long introduction that I was going to do on the show, and I said, you know what? I'm changing. I'm just going to flow. I'm gonna freestyle it because that's how we do when we have a conversation with each other. So I'm just going to say I'm glad to have this lady here with us today. And she is excellent, excellent to talk to when I go to her, when I see her, and we're just talking and we're vibing. And I don't know what it is, but everything out of her mouth just makes sense. You know, she is like an expert in every field. You know, I mean, she's just wonderful. But, you know, she knows so many different things, man. She's passionate about so many different things. And I just absolutely enjoy talking to her on a daily basis. So I want to welcome Miss Cyreld to the show.
Oh, thank you guys for having me. I do appreciate it. I do.
Not a problem. So you and I were talking the other day. Well, we talk often, but you and I were talking the other day, and you know, you have a lot of passions about a lot of different things. But there was one particular thing that you really said you really truly have a passion. And talking to you about it, you know, it even opened my eyes on certain things, and I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I walked away from the conversation like reevaluating my life. So, you know, I was sitting back thinking like, man, do I need to straighten some things out? Am I feeling some things? But you know, but just talking to you just does that, and I really appreciate you. And what we're going to talk about today, guys, is mental health. It's a big thing. Yes. So, listen. I tell you, we've had a rough couple of years, you know, with everything going on, and mental health has played a big part in everything that's going on with the COVID situation and just different things, the political scene. So it's been real trying. So I'm gonna hand it over to you, you know, and just tell us a little bit about, you know, why you're so passionate about the subject of mental health.
I'm extremely passionate about mental health because it's a part of our day to day. And for my own personal reasons, I am bipolar 1, and I'm also a 4-time suicide survivor. So that's really what started it for me, of being open and talking about it, because I'm like, I know I can't be the only one that has these feelings, has these thoughts, growing through these things. And sometimes people need to see that, hey, I'm not alone. You know, I'm a woman, I'm a Black woman, and I'm also a part of the LGBTQ plus community. I am the L, meaning the lesbian in that community. So it's like, yeah, I wanted to start a platform and just talking about mental health and how it affects our day to day, professionally, personally, relationships, you name it. Our mental health is affected by everything that goes around us. But we're not having the honest conversations about what mental health is. And it's different for everybody. You have PTSD, you have anxiety, you have depression, you have OCD, bipolar 1, bipolar 2. It's so many different spectrums of mental health. And I just like being open and having open, honest conversations about it, and also creating safe spaces for people to come to me to talk about mental health, because it's not talked about. You know, it's not talked about amongst your family. It's not talked about amongst your friends, because it stems from shame, guilt, being judged, and because I used to be shamed, felt guilty, and judged about saying, hey, I am bipolar 1 and I suffer from seasonal depression. I wanted to create a space for people that felt like me. So I talk about it everywhere I go, within my relationships. I talk about it at work. I talk about it, within my friendships, because safe spaces are needed for us, especially within the Black community, to be able to talk openly about it. So it just stems from my own personal, experiences with it. Yeah, that's where it stems from. And once I get talking about it, it just opened up other doors. And I'm very passionate about it. I wear mental health quotes on my t-shirts and sweatshirts at work, and that has allowed so many random people at my job just to come up to me and just to start a conversation. I have a shirt that says, be right back, I'm on my way to therapy. I have a shirt that says, mental health matters, don't ignore your mental health. So I'm truly about that life, but I also know we need a space, to talk about it. I do understand that those don't believe in therapy. I am a therapy advocate. I have been going to therapy for the last 6 years. But I do know that people don't believe in therapy. Sometimes you really just need a person just to vent to, and I am that person.
Well, Cyreld, that's absolutely wonderful. I got a question for you. Now, I'm a
Sure.
therapy person. 3
Okay.
years in now, I love it now,
Yes.
and I didn't even believe in it at first. But
Okay.
is it? I don't even know if it exists. You know how for your physical health we do checkups or yearly checkups. Is there a checkup for mental health? Because the problem is you don't like I had no idea I had any issue whatsoever until life changes caused me to go to therapy, and then I found out I had different issues.
Right.
Should we be doing some type of like mental health checkup the same way we do physical health checkups?
I believe we should. Therapy doesn't need to be as deep. Sometimes you really just need to go to somebody, be on some, hey, I'm feeling like this. Or when you have a lot going on, whether it be family, friends, businesses, jobs, there's so many moving parts regarding life that we aren't taught to handle growing up. You're really just thrown into things from time to time. So it's nothing wrong with going to somebody and say, I just need a mental check to make sure that I'm on the right path. There's nothing wrong with that. Just because I'm 6 years in now, I don't go to my therapist as much as I did at the beginning when I needed it for different reasons, whether it be healing or, like I said, I'm a 4-time suicide survivor. So that's a whole nother level of therapy that I had to go through. But now it really is just to check to make sure that I'm good day to day, to make sure that the tools that I have and the tools that my therapist gave me, I'm actually implementing them in my day-to-day life. But I do know that therapy is not for everybody. A lot of people doesn't believe in that. And when I realized that, which is why I create spaces for people just to be able to vent. Sometimes you can't truly vent to your family and friends the way you can vent to a stranger. People are more open with strangers to tell strangers their deepest, darkest thoughts versus a husband, a wife, their children, whoever. Sometimes strangers bring out that openness, that rawness, that vulnerability.
Well, one other quick question for you. I don't mean to jump questions on you, Rich, but what happens? This is what I've noticed when I tell people I go to therapy, and it's not from everybody, but sometimes, especially like in the Black culture, sometimes they equate going to a therapist as almost like a form of weakness.
Right.
Have you ever gotten that before?
I have gotten that. I get that now a lot. Like, oh my God, you go to therapy. That means you can't handle anything. Yo, I need therapy. Like, I need therapy. I know within the Black culture, everything is go to church, pray to God, and keep it moving.
Right.
I have a shirt that says I pray and go to therapy. Both needs to coexist in my life. I need both. And there's nothing wrong with going to therapy. There's nothing wrong with getting that extra help. And I'm an advocate for that. I'm a living, walking advocate that, therapy is okay. You're really just sitting down, just chatting with somebody. That's all you're really doing. Therapy does challenge you. When you do the work will get easier over time with therapy. You know, when I started it 6 years ago, I didn't want to do the work. I wasted my therapist's time for a good year and a half, if I'm being honest. You know, and it wasn't until she was like, yo, Cyreld, like, why are you here? You know, you say you want help, but you're not even willing just to do the bare minimum that I'm asking you to do. This was 6 years ago. 6 years later, it's just, we have a totally different relationship. You know, but within the Black community, it's not something that has always been talked about. You know, within mental health, it's just, we never talked about it. It was a hush hush. Or when it came to, like, for example, anxiety back in the day, it was like, oh, your nerves are just bad, you'll get over it. No, you're feeling anxious. Like, that's what that is. You're feeling anxious because of everything that's around you. Or people have panic attacks, same thing, you're feeling anxious. But then we didn't have the tools or the education to really put a name with something. You know, it was nerves, now it's anxiety or panic attacks, et cetera, et cetera. But it's just a lot of unlearning that we as people need to do, and people being advocates and speaking out about it and what that looks like, you know, which is why I try my best to be as honest and vulnerable as I can when it comes to it.
And, you know, and it's crazy because when you sit there and you say in the Black community, it really does need to be addressed. Because I remember growing up, and, you know, you may have a cousin or something that can't sit still, he all over the place, and, you know, you got that, just sit your ass down, you know, and you know, it's like something wrong with the kid. Ain't nothing wrong with him, you know, ain't nothing wrong with him, he just needs to sit down, you know. And it's just like sitting up there growing up like that, it's like you're almost taught to ignore.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Not almost. You are taught to
ignore your feelings and emotions as a young child, and then you grow up not knowing how to deal with feelings and emotions. You're lashing out, you're angry, you're so many things. So as you get older, you have to unlearn a lot of things, you know, and it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. It really doesn't, but it is possible to do. It is.
That's crazy. But, you know, I really touched back a little bit about the whole therapy thing. I've actually gone to therapy a few times, not as often as I should. Actually, I need to start going back. But, you know, I remember when I was going to therapy, you know, it definitely made me feel a lot better just to get these things off my chest, you know. I believe I myself, you know, suffer from anxiety with a lot of things, and I never really noticed it until now, you know, as I've gotten older, and it's almost kind of like, oh my goodness, I got to do this. What am I going to do? And then it's like you automatically almost go into a panic attack, and still not realizing, you know, what it was, you know.
Right.
So it's just we do need places where we can identify, you know, where we can go to identify with these issues, and then people help us out with that. And we need to go to the doctor more as well.
Absolutely.
You know, to help with being diagnosed with these things, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely we do. And we need to be able to have these conversations with our loved ones when we're not feeling okay, when we are feeling off. And I know that takes a level of just vulnerability and trust, and that's hard for us as well. You know, I can be honest with you, but in the back of my mind, we do have this fear, like, okay, if I tell you what I'm going through, are you going to support me? Are you going to judge me? At one point in time, are you going to throw this back in my face? So it's a lot that encompasses with going to therapy or talking about mental health, because I don't want to call it a sensitive topic, but you're showing somebody, hey, I'm not okay in this moment. You know, you're being your most authentic and vulnerable self. And I understand that people play on that sometimes. I understand that people take advantage of that and throw that in your face, you know, which in turn causes us just to not tell anybody anything that we're going through. So I definitely understand there's a balance within that, you know, and it's hard to find just good people in your life that you can just trust and be your most authentic self, you know, which is why, you know, I do what I do, which is why I'm like, yo, I really do create spaces for people just to be themselves and to, just to talk, because a lot of times we all really just want to be talked to. We all want to be seen, and we all want to be understood, and we all want to be unconditionally loved. And
I
I'm
agree.
Well, Cyreld, I got another question for you that I noticed, and this is not just a black, this is all communities. All right, there's two parts to the therapy and the mental treatment. So you have the psychology side, and then you have the psychiatrist side. The psychology side deals with the mental and the inside, the intellect, the talking to you, and then the psychiatrist side actually deals with possible medication treatments.
Right.
So what is your thoughts on the medication treatments to mental health issues?
I say do what's best for you. For me personally, I have to take medication for my bipolar. I've seen myself off medication, and I've seen myself on medication. And it's different. I'm a totally different person than I was 6 years ago when I was first diagnosed. I understand the stigma around, damn, I really got to take some shit for the rest of my life to make sure that I'm good. It took me a very long time just to accept the fact that I have to take something every single day just so that I'm okay and that those around me are okay. But you have to make that okay for yourself. And that alone is work. That alone is work. You have to constantly remind yourself, there's nothing wrong with me because I take something every day. There's some days where I look in the mirror like, damn, you this is tough. It's hard, but I say do what's best for you. It's not always about medication. I know people that need medication, but instead go the holistic route of things. Medical marijuana, that's a whole nother, topic of discussion when it comes to mental health or taking something or not taking something. So there's more than other options than just physically taking medication. There's so many other options out there.
Well, I know my psychologist has worked with me on diet changes to help your mental state as well.
Absolutely. Diet change is very important, which encompasses going to the doctor, getting checkups, maintaining your blood sugar level. It's a lot that encompasses mental health. It's the physical part. It's the emotional part. It's a lot of moving parts that we need to just have more conversations about. And diet change is also one of them. Drinking more water, exercising, eliminating stress, saying no, not overexerting ourselves, not going, giving. And by the time you get to yourself, you're drained. You don't have nothing left for yourself. We are taught to always say yes and put ourselves last. No, put yourself first. When you are your best self, you can be your best self for everything else. When you're your best self, then everything else around you flows. So.
I have a question. When COVID hit, I think that's really kind of, everything just went crazy. But there was not a whole lot of attention pointed at mental health issues and people that had mental health issues, and but you would hear little pockets of things. We were all locked down, and some of us were in the house by ourselves, and so we had the whole thing. And one thing they didn't touch on is we had a lot of suicides during COVID when it was real heavy.
Absolutely. And I can understand why. I definitely can understand why. Whether you was locked down by yourself and the anxiety feeling, especially if you're used to being around people, because we're human. We need that human connection from time to time. Not all the time, but we do need that. And with COVID, we were secluded. We were forced to be secluded. And also lost your job, lost your income. So not being able to provide for yourself, just you alone, that was a lot. And then you had suicide that happened within amongst families. Let's say you're the sole provider of your home. COVID hit. Now you're forced to stay at home. You lost your job. You have your wife or your husband and your kids all at home. It's a lot of pressure. Day to day is a lot of pressure. Participating in life is a lot of pressure sometimes. So I can understand when COVID hit, mental health hit too.
Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? When we were trying to get this podcast off the ground, we had a lot of questions. How do we record an episode? How do we get our show on all the apps that people will listen to? How do we make money off of our podcast? The answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing our podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now Anchor can match you with some great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now by reading you this ad. Anchor, we started almost about a year ago, and it's been a godsend. Like I said, it's a one-stop shop for everything. You don't have to have any experience, and it takes you where you want to be. So if you've always wanted to start your own podcast and make money by doing it, go to anchor.fm/start. That's anchor.fm/start. And join me and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast.
You didn't have access to, let's say you was going to therapy. Now things have changed. You didn't have access to your therapist. You know, they was trying to figure out the whole virtual thing. You know, let's say you're not computer literate, you know, so it was just a lot of moving parts that you wouldn't think that you would have to figure out.
So I got a question that I have no idea the answer to it now. I know with physical, when you have physical issues and you don't have the funding, you don't have the money, you don't have insurance, you may have, I guess they call it Obamacare, whatever they have, they still cover your care, you know, maybe not the best care, but they'll make sure they try to keep you from dying at least.
Right.
And I know you do a lot of working with the public and all that kind of stuff with this. What happens if you don't have insurance, or you have Obamacare? Will that cover your mental health treatments?
They should cover your mental health treatments. I know sometimes doing a legwork when it comes to, like, let's say you have Medicaid or things like that, they should cover your mental health treatments. It's just it's a lot more red tape though. You can only go to certain therapists or certain doctors, you know, just like anything with, you know, customer service, it's just a lot to go through. But there are services out there that do provide, you know, mental health for those that are low income families, low income jobs, things like that. There are things out there, but unfortunately, you have to go through a little bit more to get the, you know, necessities that you need, unfortunately, when you don't have, quote unquote, good insurance or no insurance at all.
Right.
Yeah, we definitely have to get better with that, man.
Absolutely.
Something has to be done because, you know, I really had no idea of how big of an issue this was, you know, and fairly here recently, you know, and we've just kind of been trained just to say, well, you know, you see people on the street talking to themselves and
right.
Well, stay away from, you know, the crazy or whatever. But, you know, even in your family, you know, knowing that, you know, people in your family have issues and you just kind of, well, you know, that's just how they are.
Uncle such and such ain't right.
Yeah, absolutely, you know, right.
you know he's a little touched, you know.
Right.
You know, but we definitely have to get better with that, and it starts with education. I really
absolutely
do believe that. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, it always starts with education.
And then, Checkup, here's another thing. I think maybe we should start earlier. What are your thoughts on that? Because I know some of the issues that I have. If they would have, I was a very hyper kid, like extremely hyper. Got in all types of trouble. Got put out of almost every school I ever went to until in high school. You know what I mean? I always just kept getting put out. And they wanted to put me on, you know, like Ritalin and stuff when I was a kid.
Right.
Of course, my parents, you don't know this, but my parents are island parents. So they didn't believe in this at all. You know what I mean? They didn't believe in this stuff at all. They just thought I was a hard-headed kid. And now with therapy, I've realized these are things that could have been addressed when I was a child that wouldn't have caused me so many issues, you know, growing up. And I just wonder, is it a way to get, Are they doing mental health checks on children now? Should we be getting kids younger into mental health, awareness and things of that nature?
In my personal opinion, yes. Being a substance abuse counselor when I lived in Boston, yes, mental health should have been in schools. It should be talked about at home. The hard part of that is parents. As parents, you do the best that you can. I don't have any children. I don't know. I don't have any experience when it comes to being a parent. And I know when you bring up mental health when it comes to their kids or people's kids, it's a touchy subject. Because parents need mental health. It's a cycle of
Right.
things. So that's really where it starts. It starts with parents unlearning, learning a lot of things, because the things that they know is either through experience or things that they were taught from their parents and from their parents. So it's a generational of things. But we can start now with our own kids right now. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with just saying, you know what? My kids live in Baltimore City. There is a lot of crime and a lot of trauma within Baltimore City. These kids see a lot of things that they shouldn't. These kids grow through a lot of things that they shouldn't have to grow through. Not just with crime, but just living in income and low income neighborhoods and not the best schooling. So it's a lot that these kids are growing through, and it's nothing wrong with, in my personal opinion, just taking them to somebody and just to allow them just to talk to. A lot of kids are not allowed to truly speak their minds in households. That whole do as I say, not as I do, or we're not going to talk
Right.
about that, or everything's a secret. I know we're getting off topic because that's a whole nother discussion. But it is a part of it. But it's hard to try to not tell a parent, hey, maybe you should let, little Jonathan go talk to somebody, without the parent feeling like they're doing something wrong. It's that balance of things. But I do believe kids should be able to, go talk to somebody, or a guidance counselor at school, or, a family friend, or somebody that is willing to navigate that consistently with these kids.
Because you don't wind up, those kids will wind up growing up to be adults that can't
Absolutely.
talk to anyone, and
Absolutely.
then you have these postal shootings and all of that stuff because they
Absolutely.
can't,
Absolutely.
you know.
Absolutely.
It's crazy because I never, like the other day, I was thinking about this and that just hit me. And I said, you know what? I sat back and I said, I think I go through a lot of the things that I go through too because of my parents. I lost my father when he was 45. He was young. And I'm 46 now. So it's like, wow, I just, like this was my dad's age when he passed.
Wow.
So many things that he's missed in life and hasn't done, you know what I mean? It hasn't had the opportunity to do. And I was like, man, I was young when that happened. This dude was only 45. And then I lost my mother when she was 56. So It's kind of like, I'm like, wow, that really affected me. And I did not understand how much it affected me until now. Because, like, my grandparents gone and my parents gone, it's just me. So it's almost kind of like that those conversations that you want to have with your parents, or that you want to have with your grandparents, and you're not able to, even as a grown person, to feel comfortable or to maybe sway you into making the right decisions. When you don't have that, when you don't have those people, it's like, man, who you talk to? So it almost kind of puts you in a state a little bit sometimes of maybe some kind of depression. Like,
absolutely,
nobody to talk to.
That's exactly what it is, because I go through that. I am parentless at the age of 41. And I'm like, I'm just now figuring things out. Like, where are my parents at? They both passed. And you can definitely go down a really dark hole, when you really sit back and think about, like, I really don't have anybody, no, like, parental guidance, because we all need parental guidance, no matter your age. We all still want that validation from our parents, no matter what our age is. And when you sit and you really think about it, it's like, both of my parents are gone. I had a whole breakdown at the beginning of the week, crying, at the beginning of this week. It's the holiday season, seasonal depression. I suffer from that, The time changes, and all that mixed together, it's like, yeah. And it's a lot. And grief is ongoing. Grief needs to be talked about too. When somebody passes, when you lose someone, we're told to be strong, move on. They wouldn't want you to be sad. It's ongoing. It's ongoing healing, which is why I go back to therapy has definitely helped. I'm just now realizing I need to go to grief therapy. I have not really truly dealt with the fact that I lost my mom in 2013 and my dad in 2015. And then I tried to kill myself the last time in 2016. I have not dealt with the loss of my parents. So I need to go to grief counseling, which is another layer of therapy that I'm now going to have to figure out and get accustomed to. So it's ongoing. It is ongoing, but it gets easier over time. My saying is the hard becomes less hard when you continue to do it consistently. That is my saying.
I like that.
So.
And you always drop those jewels, man. That's the conversation that your taglines be off the hook, man. I'm telling you. But you know what? I agree totally. And we definitely need to check up on our family members, ourselves. Absolutely. And definitely, if we see something, just try to be there to help people through it.
Absolutely. Support is everything. When you see somebody going through something, if you can, ask them how they're doing and actually stick around for them to answer. So many times we ask people how we're doing and bypassing, hey, how you doing, and keeping it moving. When I ask you how you're doing, I'm sticking around to, and I want the truth. If you're not doing good, tell me you're not doing good. If you're doing okay, tell me that you're doing okay. Life can be hard, participating in life every single day. It's hard sometimes, when you have multiple responsibilities. It is, and we don't talk about that enough. I don't like calling people strong. That's the trigger word for people. It's like, no, like I want people to be able to put their mask down, with me. And I know that I need to be vulnerable with my own self so that I can create vulnerability around me, if that makes sense. Which is why I am so open about mental health. I have learned that is my passion. That is my lane, and I stick to it, But I also know when it comes to me being honest and open about my own mental health, I am also opening the doors of being shamed, judged, you name it, but I have learned to be okay with that, and I have to be okay with that. If I'm gonna put myself out there, I have to be able to take back whatever comes. And 9 times out of 10, it's always positive. And 9 times out of 10, it really is just people wanting more information. I don't know everything. I am not a licensed psychiatrist or a psychologist or anything like that. It really is just me navigating through this life and figuring out, hey, there has to be a better way to do something. I keep doing the same things over and over again, but my life isn't getting any better. I was just honest enough to say, I need some help. I'm truly drowning. Like I am drowning. I'm drowning. I need some help. And once I started truly getting the help, it was just like, I know I'm not the only person in the world that needs this help. So let me start just conversating about it. Just randomly conversating about things. It has opened so many doors, and I've met so many people, and I know mental health, it's taboo, it's like, I really don't want to talk about it, but I need to talk about it, but I don't know who to talk about it with. That's me. You can talk about it with me. I'm like your home girl that you can just vent to it and talk about things to. A lot of people can't afford therapy because therapy is expensive. I tell my therapist all the time, and my psychiatrist, okay, you're part of my budget because it is expensive. Even with insurance, it is expensive. And I know that not everybody has the funds to do that. But I do think that everybody at least needs somebody that they can talk to, because when you hold all that in, you explode in different ways. Either you shut down, or either you are lashing out, or you're cussing people out, or you're quitting jobs, or you're becoming violent, so, which is why I think people like me who do just create these avenues and safe spaces for people are important. I'm not trying to diagnose people. I'm not trying to say you need to do this or you need to do that. It's just really just me creating space just for people just to talk to. That's it. That's all it is. That's where it starts.
And that's needed, man. And if nobody else have said it to you, I want to thank you for being that person.
Oh, thank you. We have conversations all the time. That's where it starts. Just conversations, Just it's crazy because I'm really an introvert. I really, really am an introvert. But when it comes to things that I love and that I'm passionate about, that's when I become just my best self. I think that is what my purpose is. I've learned that now. I never knew what my purpose was, but I've tried to kill myself 4 times, and it's like and like really tried to kill myself from pills, jumping in front of cars. Like, yo, I really did not want to be here. And God or the universe or whoever it is that you believed in, it was also like, no, that ain't it. That's not it. That ain't it for me. And I truly just believe that, mental health is a passion of mine, and talking about healthy love, that's a whole nother subject too, is also a passion of mine, so.
That's why I said we definitely, this is not going to be the last show. We definitely going to have you, because like I said in the beginning, you are just knowledgeable on so many different topics. It's unreal. Hey, Roscoe, you got anything?
No, I just totally agree with you. I'm a therapy person. Like I said, I've been going for the last 3 years. It's completely changed my life. Only thing I would add is you can go for a multitude of reasons. I went to help my relationships, whether with my lady, with my children, and it has more than helped. It's helped my relationships with my family, all around. And I'm kind of like you, but on a much, much smaller scale. As Richard tell you, I tell everybody about therapy. And I'm the opposite of an introvert.
Okay.
I talk to everybody that I see, and I was a salesperson for 20 years. I talk to everybody. Gotcha. And the number one thing I say is this: you ever read a book or read a passage and you're not understanding it, you're reading it in your head, and then you read it out loud, and then you kind of understand it now? And that's what therapy is for me. Just taking the thoughts out of my head, talking to another person about it. Sometimes I'll even say to my own self, like, dang, I was dumb right there. Or that was, I didn't even see that I was thinking that until I said it out loud.
Right.
And I just would love for everybody to have that. I think you're on the right path, getting people to get therapy, because it's like going to the doctor. When you go to the doctor, sometimes you don't know something's wrong until they do a checkup. And kind of the same thing with mental health. I have diagnoses I didn't even know I had.
Right.
Mental health is you can address them once you know you have them.
Absolutely. And life becomes a little less stressful when you do address them. They really do. It becomes a little less stressful. When you do the work, things become a little less stressful. But on the flip side too, when you do the work, you're more accountable for self. Like with therapy, I can say now 6 years in, I can't even be on some toxic shit no more. I'm so self-aware now. It's like, Cyreld, yeah, you tripping. Even when I try to like blame others, like it don't even work no more for me. It's like, nah, no, it's you. Figure it out. You got this. So, but that's just ongoing. That's consistent therapy. I wasn't always like that, but.
That's great. Well, I gotta absolutely say thank you again for coming on to the show. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. I would love to come back on. I call myself a little unicorn. I am a woman. I am Black, and I'm also an openly lesbian woman. So that's a whole nother topic too. I'm trying to navigate that, which encompasses mental health too. So I'm relatable in a lot of ways. So yes.
Yeah, so this definitely sounds like a part 2 to this interview, Roscoe.
Oh, definitely, without question. Thank you so much, bro. You've been absolutely wonderful. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, guys.
And like Rich said, this will be ongoing.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so Roscoe, I'm sorry.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Show on the Go podcast. We once again thank you, and shouts out to Checkup. Been more than wonderful. This is Show on the Go with your boy Rich Blackman, Roscoe Squeezeoff, Checkup. Thank you very much for listening. Rich, any final thoughts?
Peace. Subscribe. Listen. Look out. New content coming soon. It's going to be crazy. Tell a friend. Tell a foe. All that. but thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you guys. And peace.
Till next time.
So, Cyreld, thank you
Yes.
so much.
Absolutely great.
No problem.